Hi, I'm Chrane. I've been thinking, there's gonna be quite some time before Diablo 4 hits, in 2039, and it's way past a week since I posted my last lore video. Plus, there's this tiny thing that comes out in just a few hours of me recording this, a tiny project called Warcraft 3 Reforged. So I might as well start tackling this franchise right now, at the absolute height of yearly AdSense, baby. It's not really, it's actually the worst month of the year for revenue, but I'm being facetious. So what better time to start pumping out videos to catch us all up on the lore of Warcraft. This series is going to be structured in a similar way to my Diablo series. It's going to be focused on the big picture of the story, main events, and the driving forces moving the story forward. There might be some nuances or minor details to the story that aren't covered, but that's because I choose not to include it, because I don't think it's necessary to gain a basic understanding of the story. This is how I approached the Diablo lore, so if you enjoyed that, let's hope this delivers in the same way. These videos are made to let someone easily catch up on the story and jump in where we are today. There are other channels out there, great channels that cover every detail of this universe, so I would highly suggest going to them if that's what you're looking for. One slight difference from the Diablo lore I covered would be the backstory of the universe we're covering. With Diablo, we talked about the history of the world before jumping into the first game in the second video. In this series, we're going to cover the 3 strategy games first to get into it. Then, history of the world as it expands quite a bit before jumping into the World of Warcraft story. Okay, I'm not skipping all the backstory since we're going to have to cover what happens to the orcs, but we're saving Void Lords, Wild Gods, and most of the story of the Titans until later. Well, for the story of the orcs to make sense, we might have to cover the Titans in this as well. And the Void Lords. You know what? Let's go through all of that to let people know what this universe is about and then move into Warcraft 1 in the next video, hopefully. Oh, and by the way, we're following the story as it's written and summarized in the Warcraft Chronicle books. Sounds good? Well, that's how we're doing it, so strap in and let's go. The Warcraft universe is way bigger than some would expect. At the end of the day, it's more sci-fi fantasy than a pure fantasy setting, which is why it all begins in space, more commonly known as either the physical universe, or the Great Dark Beyond, Great Dark, Great Beyond, or Cosmos in the Warcraft universe. You pick one. They're all equally valid. It all starts with the Titans. We're not sure where the first one came from, but we know his name, aman'thul. The Titans were enormous beings traveling the Great Dark Beyond. Born from slumbering world souls, aman'thul discovered, lovingly nurtured, and awoke them one by one. The 7 Titans became known as the Pantheon, symbols of order and stability, with a natural affinity for the different magics of the universe. In their great search for finding more of their kind, they had a specific way of attempting to determine if the worlds they encountered had a dormant world soul within. They would pacify the elements, reshape the world by forming mountains, oceans, and even the sky itself, and eventually seed life on the worlds, in hopes of awakening the world soul and nurture it to maturity. However, most world souls they visited were dormant and far from being ready. They made it their mission to protect the worlds they visited, even the ones without a slumbering world soul. And from this decision came various empowered primitive life forms, designed to live by the values of order and stability set by the Titans. After creating life, the Titans created giant machines, through which they could monitor their worlds and even purge them if their creations would fall to disorder. They traveled in search of more world souls, but unbeknownst to them, the Great Dark Beyond had more than just dormant world souls in store for them. In the darkest corners of the void, outside the physical realm, something had been watching the Titans every step, waiting for their chance to strike. The Void Lords, hell-bent on twisting reality into a realm of eternal torment. They had seen the Titans' journey through the universe and sought to corrupt the world souls. However, they struggled to manifest in the physical universe, but during their attempts, their energies seeped into reality and warped everything it touched. The Titans proved unaffected by their corruption, so they altered their means. They would try to corrupt the Titan at its weakest, its dormant, sleeping state. Not knowing which worlds contained a world soul, they started flinging their dark creatures into the physical universe, hoping some would strike their target. The beings thrown into the universe would later come to be known as Old Gods. The Titans, unaware of the dangers of the Void, were occupied with another threat to their worlds, demons. Monsters born from the twisting nether, driven by hate and malice, hungering for nothing less than the destruction of all life in the universe. These monsters had been born from the light and the void energy striking together on the borders of the twisting nether. Some of these monsters would even learn to master the corrupting powers known as Fel. Some notable forms of demons would be the Nathrazim, or as you and I know them, Dreadlords, master infiltrators and practitioners of shadow magic. These demons would break apart civilizations from within, and in turn create new demons. Another important demon were the aman'thul, or Pit Lords. They had a more aggressive and straight-to-the-point way of conquering worlds, destroying everything in their path and enslaving lesser demons to use as cannon fodder in their wars. I would advise you to remember both of these types of demons because they will have a big part to play in the future. Just a sidebar there. Once the Titans heard of the demons breaking into the physical universe, they dispatched the defender of the pantheon, Sargeras, to drive them back. Sargeras' strength and courage was unmatched even by the other members of the Titans, and he swore he would stop at nothing to drive back the demonic influence of the universe. For ages, Sargeras traveled the Great Dark and witnessed invaded worlds fighting amongst themselves or unrelenting demon armies. He bore witness to the utter destruction of these once peaceful worlds driven by order, now nothing more than withering husks floating in the universe. This filled Sargeras with an overwhelming sense of hopelessness. How could something this evil exist in the universe? He had not thought it possible before leaving on his quest. Sargeras fought the demons, victory after victory, and he started noticing their more prominent use of void magic. His search expanded and he found traces of corruption throughout the cosmos. He had found traces of the Void Lords. This troubled Sargeras greatly, but his quest had to be carried out as the other Titans continued their search for more world souls. After a time, the demon forces seemed to push back even harder, and Sargeras noticed something. He had fought many of the very same demons before. What he did not know was that when he had defeated them in the physical universe, their spirits had returned to the twisting nether, and eventually they were reborn in new bodies. The only way to kill demons permanently was to either slay them in the nether or in parts of the Great Dark filled with their realm's energies. Sargeras did know, however, that his current tactics, even though he proved victorious time and time again, were not enough. He needed some way to contain his enemies. The Titans grew concerned and sent another of the Pantheon to aid Sargeras, Agramar. Agramar proved himself rather quickly and became Sargeras' trusted lieutenant. They fought side by side for millennia, an unbreakable defense against the demonic onslaught. Thanks to Agramar's help, Sargeras had time to study the twisting nether and learn some of its secrets, and even manipulate some of its energies. He used his knowledge to forge a prison within the twisting nether known as Mardum, the plane of banishment. It served as a pocket universe from which no demon could escape and be reborn. They would be contained for all eternity. As their campaign went on, the prison started overflowing with prisoners, eventually tearing at the veil between the nether and the physical universe. The prison appeared in distant reaches of the Great Dark as a burning, verdant star. Sargeras and Agramar had brought peace to the cosmos. Demon incursions would still occur, though all the more rare. The Titans' worlds prospered, and life flourished. Eventually, the demon attacks grew rare enough for Sargeras and Agramar to decide to split up to cover more ground. This would lead to a horrifying discovery that would change Sargeras forever. He found a world on the edge of the Great Dark, where cold, void energy radiated out from a corrupted world. Before him were giant beings of darkness festering across the world's surface, the creations of the Void Lords, known to us as the Old Gods. They had buried their tendrils deep into the world's core, fully corrupting it. Then, suddenly, he heard it. The dreams of the world soul within. A Titan. On the surface, accompanying the old gods were the Nathrazim. Sargeras captured them and interrogated them on what they knew of the old gods and their masters. If the void could awaken such a being, it would be an unstoppable force of dark energy. Such a creature would consume all matter and energy in the universe and bend existence to the will of the Void Lords. Upon learning this, Sargeras felt something he had never felt before. Fear. How could this be happening? All his existence had been devoted to protecting order and stability, yet something this horrible could exist and extinguish it all in a matter of moments? Sargeras became filled with rage and utterly decimated the Nathrazim in one devastating blow. He turned back towards the world, dark and corrupted. He knew there was only one way to save the universe from the coming Dark Titan. With a heavy heart, he drew his blade and split the world in two. The energies from the explosion destroyed the old gods on the surface as well as the titan dwelling within. Sargeras quickly summoned Agramor and returned to the other members of the Pantheon. After hearing what he had to say, the members of the Pantheon were shocked to hear what he had found, but even more so by his actions. They accused him of needlessly killing one of their own kin, stating that if he had called on them for aid, they could have driven away the corruption and healed the world soul. And after objecting to their accusations, he realized that arguing was a waste of time. They hadn't seen what he had seen. They didn't know what he knew. They would never understand what was lurking out there, on the edge of the physical universe. The arguments that followed between Sargeras and the Pantheon about how to deal with the threat of the Void Lords were heated, to say the least. Sargeras feared that since they had corrupted one world soul, they could have already gotten to others as well. They might be too late. He had come to believe that existence itself was already flawed, and after what he had seen, who could blame him? To Sargeras, the way forward was clear. They had to burn away all of creation to have the slightest chance of stopping the Void Lord's ultimate goal. In his mind, a decimated, lifeless universe was better than one under the control of the Void. Life had taken root once in the physical universe, so chances are, once rid of corruption, it could happen again. The other members of the Pantheon were horrified by the idea. Their entire purpose was to protect life in the physical universe. In their minds, nothing could be threatening enough to warrant what he was suggesting. Even Agramor stood against him. Feeling betrayed, Sargeras left the Pantheon behind and ventured out alone on his quest. They would never understand. Someone had to do something, and at this point, it had to be him. Well, that took way more time than I expected, just to cover that piece of the story. I guess we're gonna have to deal with Warcraft 1 in a later video. Maybe the next one, possibly the one after that, depending on how I choose to divvy all this up. If you're looking for incredibly detailed story on very specific events, there are great channels out there, and I highly recommend you watch them as well. On that note though, thank you all so much for watching. Enjoy Warcraft 3 Reforged in, 2 or 3 hours from when this comes out. Can't wait to get back into the campaign. Let's hope it's good. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been Chrane, and I will see you next time.